Hello, my name's Paul Virgo, and I'm a climate reality leader. And at Climate Reality, we've started Climate Rally's Team Italy section, which I belong to, even though I'm British, but I live in Italy. We've started to do a series of interviews with Climate Reality leaders to show people what we're doing. We're very proud of the work we do, and to try, encourage people to take climate action. Today we've expanded it a bit because we've got another climate reality leader who is like me, a Brit, but he's based in France. Okay, so Kevin, could you, you've got a very interesting story, but could you just introduce yourself and tell us what the Climate Reality Project is?
Certainly. Good morning, Paul, and everyone else. The Climate Reality Project has come about by Al Gore. It's the formation or the amalgamation of two other projects that he founded. Imagine that you are aware of something very catastrophic that's coming our way, and you want to share that with the world. You want to not just share it with the world, but convince the world to do something about it. So the idea is that you take a bunch of people and you educate them, and you give them the training about the climate crisis and what can be done and how we should do that. You give them the materials on presentations, for example, and how they can convince others. And then you ask them to go out and do exactly what you want, what you're trying to do as well, to spread the word, to get other people to engage, to get people to start talking about the problem and the solutions. And then so in a way, in the title, the leadership is there's leading people to make changes in the right direction. That's it in a nutshell, Paul. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's already, we've got 31,000 or something like that. I don't know the accurate figure.
I think it's actually more than that, but we'd have to check that up. But yeah,
it's like spreading that word by people talking the same talk, doing the same actions, those sorts of things, and that's solidarity and encourage other people to join us.
Okay, that's very nicely put. Well done. Okay, let's make it a little bit more personal now, Kevin. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, your story, and how that led to you being part of the Climate Reality Project, and how you ended up coming to the movement?
So I was a police officer in the UK. I did that for 25 years. I was privileged to be able to work on a tactical firearms team. Routinely, police in the UK are not armed. So that was a very exciting job, but a very worthwhile job because police officers are not routinely armed. And of course, there are people, criminals, terrorists that do carry guns, and they need to be dealt with. I also worked as a hostage negotiator and worked in suicide intervention. So that again was very, very interesting work. But in 2002, I had a slight change of heart. Decided to leave the police force after the 25 years, and I retrained as a mountain guide or as an international mountain leader. I then set about working on some of the honeypots of the world, the Kilimanjaro, Great Wall of China, Machu Picchu. But I got involved in youth development, so taking young people away on an expedition for a month and teaching them leadership skills, working as a team, problem solving, those sorts of things. And I stumbled into conservation work. I had a contract to work in Borneo for 3 months, which in fact got extended, and I stayed there a lot longer. But I was working on behalf of the Royal Society, planting hardwood trees. I did a mapping project in a very remote part of the jungle. And that really opened my eyes to conservation, the need to make changes. And I started running trips to faraway places to teach my clients and educate my clients on the likes of the need for sustaining biodiversity, the need to interact with local people and understand their role, what they're doing, and their ability. Now we understand that they need the means to adapt to climate change. We need to bring them along with us, and that was very rewarding, Paul. That was excellent work to actually take clients away from the Western developed world, take them to somewhere remote and educate them and allow them to go back and perhaps change their lives. With young people, of course, it's often peer pressure. They're growing up. It's very difficult. They go back to the old ways of, you know, internet, television, McDonald's, and those sorts of things. But we make changes without a doubt. So it's an important work. COVID, of course, stopped all that, like many people. I was a writer anyway. I used to write articles for magazines, and I took to writing a young adult fiction novel called Stone Child. In a nutshell, that's the famous statues of London come to life to show us the error of our ways, and it doesn't end well. So with that, and then a friend in Ecuador who also works in climate matters, he told me about the Climate Reality Project, and I saw the advertisement. I was drawn by Al Gore being there, and so I signed up for it, and then I've really concentrated now on engaging in climate matters and trying to educate people and trying to get people to change the way we live our lives.
Okay, very nice. Can we just, you mentioned it before, could you tell us a little bit about what the training involves, your experience of that, led by, you know, a former American United States Vice President and Nobel Peace Prize Al Gore? Yeah, could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I've got a friend in Ecuador. I said, look, I'm going to do this. Why don't you do it with me? And that was all the encouragement I suppose I need. But
when did you do it, and where did you do it, Kevin?
I did it online. It was October last year.
Okay.
I did it online because of COVID, which was probably a good opportunity, because I think a lot more of us were able to do it rather than traveling a long distance away. So that you know, that was a spin-off from that. As I mentioned, I was definitely drawn by the likes of Al Gore. You know, he's a very charismatic man, very motivated, very enthusiastic in the way he presents things. He's been doing this for a long time, but also the fact that the training itself was excellent. The presenters were excellent. I didn't really have an idea about the term climate justice. You know, you, as an ex-police officer, I know what justice is, and I know that the people in developing countries need our help, and we should be helping them without a doubt. But climate justice was an important learning point for me. And the presenters on climate justice were outstanding, really, really good. But the training was good.
Because there we've got the concept of the fact that frequently and unfortunately, a lot of the people who are suffering the effects of the climate crisis first, and the people who are hit hardest are often the people who've done least to cause this situation.
Absolutely.
So I'll let you continue.
I don't think we realize that fact. I don't think, you know, we may travel to these distant, faraway lands, you know, even if it's somewhere like the Maldives, it doesn't dawn on us that the Maldives are suffering with practically no fresh water any longer because of sea level rise, you know, and having to ship in all their fresh water in bottles. You know, that doesn't dawn on us. You know, we see it as a holiday destination, all included, and let's go and sit in the sun. But we have to wake up to these facts, you know. So so it was very much of looking at the training itself, the climate justice thing, the presenters. I felt very supported through the training. That was very good. That was an important part.
Yeah, because during the training, well, certainly my experience is I had a mentor, a very wise and lovely person who sort of helped me through the journey of the training and helped, well, me and a group of other people, and that was an important part for me as well.
And the other point was the fact that we were exposed or had contact with other climate leaders, either they're already trained or in training with us. That I really, because up to that point, I'd felt fairly isolated. You know, I was doing what I could. I was educating myself. I was writing articles on my own. You don't get a lot of feedback, but here now I was suddenly exposed to 25 other leaders, all in training, that we could join our services together. And that I think is a really important thing that we do need to capitalize on, is that we all come from a mixed background. We've all got various skills. We need to be helping each other. We need to be knowing who can do what for each other, having contact with each other. Even simple things like social media, for example. You know, if you post something, imagine all the climate reality leaders all liking, sharing. That's a very powerful tool. We shouldn't be working in isolation. We should have this constant interaction with climate reality leaders from the entire area. That would be very, very useful. And similarly with our skills, if I'm trying to design a poster, I don't know those skills. I'm not a graphic designer, but there will be many graphic designers amongst us that might want to offer a bit of time to say, yeah, I can do that for you. And similarly, I can do something for them. So that again is something we should really be developing within our organization.
Okay.
So the training
thank you for saying that, Kevin, because it's something I actually totally agree with, the sense of being part of a community and not facing this challenge, which can be scary, but at least you're doing it with other people, and that I found very helpful. Okay. Now you mentioned it before that we're trained as climate reality leaders, and Al Gore encourages us to go out and perform acts of leadership to raise awareness about the climate crisis. Can you give some examples of, since you've been trained not that long ago, and some things you've done to help lead on climate?
Yeah, sure. So acts of leadership, it's exactly what it says. Is that we need to go out and engage with people, but we do need to be leaders. People need to be led. People are perhaps stuck in a situation where they hear a lot about climate change. They may not know actually what it means. They may be quite anxious about it, but they need people to say, follow me, come with me, let me help you with this. I understand this, I've got some resources here. I can show what mitigation is or adaptation is. I can do these things for you. I can get you motivated to point you in the right direction. And so anything that does that is an act of leadership. So the most obvious example is to do presentations, and I do presentations here. They were stopped by COVID. I live in rural France, which is a very aged population. So the mayor, quite rightly, was very restrictive on contact amongst people.
Can I just stop you there a second, Ken, just to explain to our viewers that one of the things that the climate reality movement encourages to do is to give presentations based on the presentations that Al Gore gives himself, and including a very short and sweet presentation called Truth in 10. And so we're encouraged to go out and give this presentation similar to the presentation Al Gore gives. Sorry, I'll let you continue.
And that in itself is an engagement, but also it's the ability to engage with other people, perhaps on social media, perhaps even your dinner guests, your friends. Is to encourage people to have conversations, to engage with people, to say there is a different point of view, because there's a lot of greenwashing, I suppose. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's about cutting through that with some facts and figures, not too many, but a point of view to say, well, have we considered this? What about that? It's about leading people, but it's and often some of that engagement is with people, so-called doomerism or denialism, those sorts of things. That's quite hard sometimes. Some people can be quite angry, quite rude, and as a leader, you have to try and separate that and not be affected by that. My own personal view is that there's a large chunk of people that sits outside of the deniers and the already convinced. That they're the people that we should be tackling. They're the people that know about climate change, perhaps not in detail, don't really know what the consequences mean and what to do about it. And they're the people that we need to try and educate and say, come on, we need to sign that petition, make an approach to your MP, change your way on how you live your lives, and encourage other climate activists that are doing perhaps more. And they're the people that we should be tackling. So that's it in a nutshell, Paul. That's the acts of leadership, and I enjoy doing them. I enjoy getting involved in them. I write articles still for magazines and online platforms, and I engage wherever I can. I'm always looking. I've recently ran a poll to see what could I do with the expat community here in France, because You know, there are a lot of British people come over here for retirement, perhaps. They don't then have the same exposure that they had back in the UK, going to the pub or the cafe or meeting friends in supermarkets, that sort of thing, where you chat about those sorts of things. They don't necessarily read the French local news. And I'm looking at ways of maybe reaching out to that expat community to say, I'm here. You know, can I help you with that education? Are you a bit anxious about it? Can I help with that? One of my other hats is that I volunteer in the mental health world. I'm a mental health first aider. So the climate anxiety to me is a very valid point. I'm seeing more and more clients who talk about climate and in a very anxious way. So yeah, it's a very important thing, the acts of leadership.
Okay, thank you. Couldn't you, the climate crisis is already, you know, having devastating effects. Has the climate crisis affected you at all personally?
That's a really interesting question, because we in the developed world, be it the West, be it America, we know what that means. We're very protected. We're very isolated from those incidents. We do have those incidents. We've seen recent flooding. We've seen, you know, America has seen some very extreme climate changes with high winds and storms and those sorts of things. We've seen some of that in Europe, but still we're very protected, and that has an adverse effect on our motivation. We see that on the news, and we are controlled a lot by the media on how much that we're exposed to that. There may be something, but you know, some issue of society to do with a film star, divorce, or Boris Johnson and his actions, those sorts of things, that sells more newspapers perhaps than some storm and flooding. So we are cosseted, we are protected from that. So I can't say I've been touched in that sense, but as someone that's traveled the world and worked a lot with local people, yeah, I am touched by the news from friends, even people that I've worked with. Their climate has changed, and many of them work in tourism, so that has a serious effect for them. Many people have worked locally in farming, in agriculture, so the crops have failed or crops are not working any longer because of temperature change or weather changes. I do know of people that have died because of various occasions to do with deadfall in the forest, where storms have changed things.
Okay.
I'm exposed to news to do with activists. You know, there's an incredible number of activists that there's a missing reporter at the moment that's just been reported yesterday. You know, activists, incredible number of activists that do get killed. You know, we don't become exposed to that. So there's an awful lot of going on that really says we've got to wake up. We've got to change our ways. We've got to get involved in this. We cannot live this modern society. You know, it's been very enjoyable, but it doesn't work, and we need to change. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about the climate crisis. It can be very alarming. People are stressed about it. And sometimes it feels like we're going in the wrong direction instead of tackling the problem. So and doomism, you mentioned that before, it can be tempting to to just throw your hands up and say, look, it's useless. But you know, there are reasons to be hopeful that the climate crisis can be tackled. What gives you hope?
I come from a policing background, and policing is a difficult job, but we have an attitude in the police that says there is always a solution. Whatever the problem is, there is always a solution if you're prepared to take the action that will solve it. It's as simple as that. And the climate, I see the climate change, the climate crisis is exactly the same. Here is the problem. Is there a solution? Yes, there is a solution. Are we prepared to take it? And that's the big question. As regards to technology, of course, we're intelligent enough. Much of the technology is already there. With regards to motivating people or changing our lifestyles, it's do we have the will and the capacity to say yes? Because we need systemic change. We need in the ways that we are governed. We need the ways that we are led. We need to look at agriculture. We need to look at transport. We need to look at equity amongst ourselves, how we interact with each other. We need to bring these people along. We cannot have the disparity between rich and poor and the way they live their lives. That just doesn't work. So I look at that and go, if we can change as a society, there's a wonderful opportunity there for us as a species even to evolve. And the simple fact is, Paul, if we don't evolve, if we don't change, we're not going to survive. I don't know, that's not meant to be dramatic. That's simply fact that this is the greatest crisis we've ever faced. And it is going to get worse, and we do need to do something about it. And it's becoming more and more urgent. So it's that, Paul, that gives me hope. It's the fact that we're capable of solving this. We are very capable. We've probably just got, it's not that we don't have time, or we do have time. By acting quickly, we reduce the effects of climate change. It's not we're going to fall off the edge of the cliff. It's just that it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and it's going to cost more and more and more to solve. And the sooner we act, the sooner we will benefit from that change.
Okay, well, thank you for talking to me today, Kevin. And I think you put those concepts very, very eloquently. So thank you for that. And I'm going to wrap the interview up now, but just to remind everyone who's watching that, obviously Climate Reality, we've got lots of resources on our websites to check them out. And we're very active on social media, so please follow us there, and consider joining us or other climate movements. Just get involved, and that's our appeal to you today. So thank you for watching.